Hello, everyone. I am Sam, and for our managerial profiles, my partner Ryan and I had the opportunity to interview managers and leaders in the airline and IT industries. Ryan had the opportunity to interview Lauren Fox, who is a senior program manager at MasterCard. She has a collective 5 years of experience of program management in the IT industry. Her career in IT covers multiple positions, starting as an administrative assistant, then becoming a software tester, and ultimately a program manager. Ryan and Lauren focused their discussion on the day-to-day business issues that are observed in Lauren's career. They specifically focused on diversity in the workforce, motivation, and creating and measuring value. I had the opportunity to learn more about leadership in the airline industry from Shelley Rubino. Shelley is the Vice President of Global Government Affairs at Airlines for America. The most interesting aspect of the interview to me, which is ultimately what we focused our interview on, was the impact of COVID-19 on the entire industry and the difference that Shelley saw in her role at A4A and as a leader and decision maker for the industry that impacts each and every one of us every day. The topics that we covered in our interviews were leading through crisis management, one's management style, the most effective forms of communication, and addressing diversity. Now we will further explore our observations found through each of our managerial profiles. The interview with Lauren focused on her 5 years of managerial experience in terms of managing multiple teams, discussing challenges that she had experienced, and how she was ultimately able to overcome each of these challenges. In terms of her day-to-day operations, Lauren utilizes frameworks such as Agile and Scrum to keep strategic integration while also being nimble enough to address changing requirements. This is critical to maintaining motivation and effectiveness in the workplace. Additionally, diversity has made the workplace more comfortable and productive through her career and in the workforce. On the other hand, while Shelley had years of experience in her career and has known a great deal about the airline industry for years, preparing for something like a global pandemic was never expected. It seemed impossible that one factor could completely flip an entire industry upside down and put the entire thing at stake. There was no way A4A could have completely prepared for something like the global pandemic that we've seen over the past 2 years. But they knew that having a strong, unified leadership team and making conscious and informed decisions through these times in crisis were truly the best they can do. Furthermore, in terms of Shelley's leadership style, the first reference that I had going back to our early OB lectures was the very definition of management in terms of planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. This is really what Shelley had to focus on more recently than ever, taking one step at a time and never moving too fast. As she related to and communicated with her team, she was able to tap into some of their motives, attitudes, and their outlook. This was an unprecedented time that completely redirected and redefined many people's lives, and she took this into account with every interaction that she had. During this time, when it was such a critical role in such a critical industry, it was important to keep herself and her team focused on the task at hand and making sure that they're making the best decisions in order to proceed and recover in the future. As we compared and contrasted the management style in different industries, we realized that both of our interviews focused on different aspects of business. Ryan's focused more on the day-to-day interactions and business operations, while mine focused mainly on crisis management during a global pandemic. Both of these presented unique challenges that our interviewees had to address. And through this, we saw similarities in their messaging between the two, even though they were completely focused on different industries and different roles at different times in their careers. Both expressed the importance of staying focused on the larger picture of an organization and maintaining active engagement within the workforce and overall keeping track of the organic evolution of diversity in their workforce. With the day-to-day operations and crises and industry disruptions, it is at times difficult to focus on the bigger picture. With changing requirements and shifting priorities, workers can become dissatisfied and lose sight of the big picture. For both of these managers, it was critical that they kept their employees engaged and motivated and determined to meet the goals that they've set. And it was important to have that direct engagement. It was critical to them in their workforce. As we reflect on our interviews, we both learned so many lessons. I had the opportunity to see firsthand Shelley and her team make the decisions and work over the course of the pandemic. We really all went through it together. From my perspective, seeing leaders in the airline industry admit that they did not have the answers or direction seemed unsettling, but none of us had the answers, and we're all making it up as we went along, and it was just a constant crave to move forward. As we fought through unprecedented times, I saw their strength and commitment and leadership every day in the decisions that they made. Shelley never lost faith and was constantly carrying the weight of the team in the time of uncertainty. It was clear that none of us had any answers or what answer was right and what answer was wrong, but we knew that every step of the way and every decision that they made was critical, and it was going to impact the entire traveling public. I also found it very interesting to evaluate Shelley's leadership style and A4A as a whole from an international perspective. When it comes to culture, we learned that understanding the values behind and practices associated with cultural differences was key. This was something they had taken into account when overcoming the circumstances associated with the pandemic. Every culture and every country was impacted in their own way, and taking this into account when making decisions was critical. Not only were they dealing with different cultures, but every country had a separate set of COVID-19 regulations that they were implementing, and A4A had to keep up with each of them as they were changing day to day. Overall, Shelley was a firm believer that value creation starts with the people. Whether it be the people working under her or the people working around her, that is truly what she believed. Lauren's management style focuses on established management frameworks. From her discussion with Ryan, these are necessary to manage teams performing a number of tasks and ensuring that there is no wasted time or effort across the workforce. Maintaining clear lines of communication and regular syncs help maintain focus across the team. Additionally, understanding the workforce is critical to ensure that productivity is maximized and potential conflicts are minimized. As we closed, we drew one final connection. With the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic and the disruptions that it caused to the workforce, as the workplace changed from an office to a home office, both Shelley and Lauren had to shift their normal working practices and their leadership styles to help ensure that the hygiene factors from Heisenberg's two-factor theory were met. Communication had become more difficult for teams as they moved towards virtualized work environments, such as clear communication within the workforce. It became essential and critical to the future success of each of these companies and each of these industries. Failure to have clear and regular communication with the workforce can breed dissatisfaction and conflict. Both Lauren and Shelley had to adapt appropriate methodologies to allow for the workforce to have their voices heard, alleviate conflict, and reduce dissatisfaction during these trying times. With that, we want to thank you all for listening in, and we hope that you enjoyed learning about our managerial profiles as we covered Lauren Fox, a senior programmer at MasterCard, and Shelley Rubino, the Vice President of Global Affairs at Airlines for America. Thank you.